For the next few months, with every book I sell from my website, you will receive a free copy of the Retire in Thailand magazine valued at $2.99, including the Retire in Thailand Handbook 2025, the 10 best countries in the world to retire on your pension, both of my road trip books, a 3-week road trip through Southern Thailand and a 3-week road trip through northwestern Thailand. 3 books in the tie-dyed series of books featuring Chai Son Sinuon, an incorruptible Thai policeman in a police force that is rife with corruption, Murder in Paradise, Bar Girl and Lawyers, Guns and Money. Or, if you prefer historical fiction, how about the Deptford mass murders, which tells the story of the first time fingerprints were used to solve a crime in London in 1905. The book Adolf Fittler tells the story of a young boy growing up in northeast England during the Windrush era, when millions of people from Commonwealth countries arrived in the UK to work due to the shortage in the labour market after World War II. If you like biographies, have a look at my book, You Will Never Amount to Anything, which were the cruel words that my teacher said to me on the day that I left school in 1966, and how those words inspired me to prove him wrong. I'm delighted to introduce my latest book, The Golden Years, Retired in Thailand and Living the Dream. The book is for anyone who may be thinking about relocating from their home countries to retire or to live in this beautiful country. For this month only, it's available for just $4.99, and as a special bonus, every book bought on my website comes with a free Thailand expat living magazine. I've been making these videos for probably close to a year, 18 months now, and most of the time I'm singing the praises of retiring here in Thailand or living here in Thailand. But what you have to understand is that it doesn't suit everyone. It suits me fine, it suits me down to the ground, but it doesn't suit everyone. I've known people who've come here and hated it. I've known people who go to other countries like Malaysia and Jamaica and Italy, and they've holidayed there many times, but then they've decided to think, okay, when I retire I'm going to come and live here. But when they get there, it's not the same, because everything's different. When you're on holiday, everything's exciting, everything's just for a couple of weeks. But when you live here, you've got to take the crunchy with the smooth. Things don't always go the same as when you're on holidays just for 2 weeks. So today I want to try and explain to you some of the things you might not like if you come here to retire or to live in Thailand. So number 1 on the list would be, if you're a stressful type of person and you don't like dealing with bureaucracy and officialdom, well, Thailand might not be the place for you, because you need to adapt when you come here, and you will have to deal a lot with bureaucracy. Everything about retiring here, especially, not so much if you're coming here as a tourist, it's quite straightforward. But if you want to live here long term, say on a retirement visa, the bureaucracy that goes with it and the paperwork and the hoop jumping that you've got to jump through can take its toll. Thailand, I mean, I live in Hua Hin. It's not Macclesfield in England, it's not Wagga Wagga in Australia, it's not Hicksville in the USA. This is Thailand, and Thailand is not the same as the country you're going to leave behind. And it doesn't matter how many times you've holidayed here or visited here, you really need to come and spend some quality time before you give up everything at home and think, oh, I'm going to go and retire in Thailand. I met a couple in Malaysia quite a few years ago who'd been holidaying in Malaysia most of their lives, for many years. They'd been going to Malaysia. They loved it. They thought it was the best country. They were from the UK, from somewhere I think in Oxfordshire, and they always dreamed of retiring to Malaysia. Well, when I met them, they were packing up ready to go back to the UK, and they told me that it just wasn't the same. When they were on holiday, it was fantastic for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, a year, but when they actually lived there, they didn't like it so much, and they missed their lifestyle back in the UK. They missed their family, obviously. They missed their going to the pub, they missed the football, they missed all sorts of things that you think, oh, I can leave them behind. When you actually do leave them behind, sometimes you can't live without them. It's part of your life. You've been growing up with that all your life. And when you've been on holidays, you've only been away for 4 weeks, then you've gone back to your football and your pubs and everything that you like about the UK, the USA or Australia or wherever you're from, and you go back to them. But when you live permanently 12 months of the year somewhere in a different environment, you sometimes do miss the things that you loved and grew up with. And these people who I met in Penang in Malaysia, it cost them a lot of money because they didn't come here for, say, 6 months or a year to try it out first and make sure that everything was going to be okay. They sold everything up. They sold their house, they gave their dog away, they sold all their furniture, they sold their car. They just took the punt and thought, yeah, I love Malaysia, I'm going to go and live there, and I'm going to buy a place there, I'm going to buy a car there, so it doesn't really matter, I'm still going to get all the same things. And they did. They came over and they bought a condo, and they bought a car, and they bought all the furniture, and they started to live their lives. But after about 6 to 8 months, they were getting miserable. They didn't like it anymore. So then they had to sell everything in Malaysia that they'd bought and then go back to the UK and buy everything again. And they probably wouldn't be able to buy their old house back, so they're going to have to start again. So please just think about that. If you are thinking about coming here and retiring, come here for 6 months and rent a place for 6 months. See the good and the bad. But you do need to come and check it out. Lots of people don't do that and they're still happy, because it depends on your own personal circumstances, what you want out of life. So not everyone does that. Not everyone comes here for 6 months or a year and tries it out and then goes back and sells everything. Some people take the punt and it works out for them. But other people, they take the punt and it doesn't work out for them, and it costs them a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of heartbreak. You know, when you leave your family behind in the UK or the USA and you say you're going to go to live in another country, it can be heartbreaking as well, not just for yourselves but for your children or your grandchildren. So number 2 on my list of things that you might not like about living in Thailand would be perhaps the language. Now, most people from Western countries, they go on holidays and they expect that the locals will speak English, and in most countries that's right, unless you're going to go to somewhere that's out in the bush somewhere. But if you go to most touristy towns, the majority of people speak enough English at least to get by, you know, so you can order your food or you can order your drink and you can get in a taxi, whatever. And that's true here in Thailand. All the big touristy towns and the cities, you know, Bangkok, not maybe on the outer areas, most people will speak enough English to get by, some fluent. But that's not true if you go to country towns. If you go to places like Khon Kaen, Udon Thani, Phitsanulok, Korat, those sort of towns, then you might find it hard to be understood. And you might want directions, or you might want to order a meal or whatever, but you might find it very, very difficult. And also you'll find that everything's written in Thai, whereas if you're in a tourist town, the menus are written in English as well as Thai. So you might want to consider, if you're coming here learning the language a little bit first. I mean, that's a good thing to do if you're planning on it and you're going to take a year or so to get here before you're thinking of coming to live. Then that gives you a year or so to download an app on your computer or your phone and start to learn a little bit of Thai. Just the basics: how to order food, how to say hello, how to say goodbye, how to ask how someone is. It always helps. The more you know Thai, the easier your lifestyle will be when you get here. Not only will it be easier, you'll also find that that people treat you different because they think that, okay, you've taken the time to learn the language. And another reason also is that you will find that you're not going to get ripped off so much, because people know that you live there because you speak the language, so they know that you know the prices, and you're not like a tourist. The tourists come, they don't know the difference, so people can put extras on the bill, or they can try and get a little bit more out of you, or charge you a little bit more because they know that you're probably not coming back. But if you speak the language, there's a good chance that you live there and you're going to go back to them, so they're not going to rip you off so much. So that's a good thing as well. If you can do that, it will make it a lot easier. That's not a must, but it does help a lot, because you'll find that a lot of these translate apps, like Google Translate, they don't really work. You think you're saying something, and actually you might be saying the opposite. So if you can learn the language, it will help a lot if you're thinking of coming to live in Thailand or whatever country you're planning on going to live. Try and learn that language if it's not an English-speaking country. So that brings me to number 3 on my list, which is the culture here in Thailand. Thailand's 95% Buddhist religion, and that reflects in most of their lives. And you're going to have to adapt a lot if you're going to come here and live. If you're going to expect to just come here and go into the ways that you lived in your old country, you're going to find that very hard to do. There's lots of reasons for that. To start with, say, if you got into a relationship with a Thai person, you're going to find that, yeah, she might love you, but the Thai family will always come first. That's inbred into them from day one. They look after their families first, and the husband or the boyfriend are not, I wouldn't say not so important, but they are probably secondary in their life. Their families come first. And I think that's a great thing for me. I mean, as long as you get on well together and you love each other, that doesn't matter. But that is the way that Thai people live. They look after their parents as they get older. They adapt more to the family lifestyle than, say, a married lifestyle. They combine both, but it can be sometimes hard to take. I've had 3 relationships here, and their families are always going to come first, and it took me a little while to understand that. I understand that now, and I make allowances for that. Also, status and causing loss of face to a Thai person can be a big problem if you decide you want to live here. Also, in the UK, you've got your royal family there, and you can just about say what you want to say about them. If you don't like them, you can say, oh, I don't like them. You can ridicule them, you can make jokes about them if you want, and there'll be no consequences. And that's how it should be, I suppose. You know, it's freedom of speech. But in Thailand, it is completely different. You can't say anything bad about the King of Thailand. If you do, you can end up in a lot of trouble. So if you're a highly opinionated person and like to scream your views to the world, then Thailand might not be a great place for you to come and live. It is completely different here. There's certain rules that you can't bend or break about talking about people or about the king or about the government. So you do have to be very careful. Talking about the government is going to be completely different from the government that you've come from in most Western countries. Not all, but most Western countries have a stable government. Thailand's had about 7 military coups in the last 40 years or so. If that doesn't suit you also, you should take a hard look at it before you decide if you want to come here. So that brings me to number 4 on my reasons that Thailand might not be suitable for you as a place to live, and that would be alcohol. If you love a tipple, Thailand could be the place for you in one respect, because the country does have a big drinking culture. But be careful not to fall into the trap that I've seen many expats fall into when they arrive here. In all the towns that I've lived here in Thailand, I pass bars on a morning that are frequented by expats, and I see many of them sitting having a heart starter at 10 AM, and they're still there later on in the day when I'm returning from my walk, and quite often I might be going out a few hours later and they're still sat there chatting with their expat mates. So many newcomers to the country fall into the trap of meeting up with other expats from their own countries or from other Western countries and just go back to the way that they lived in their old lives back in their old country, talking about football and politics and what's happening in the UK if they're from the UK, or the USA if they're from the USA. Nothing wrong with that. It's good to keep in touch with your country. I do. I keep in contact with Australian news, US news and UK news and news from around the world. But if you're going to come here, you need to try and embrace the country that you've adopted. Not just use it as an extension of your old life. Enjoy the country for being Thailand, not the UK, not the USA, not Australia, not New Zealand. It's different, and you need to embrace that, not just come here and try to pick up and go where people from your own country go and meet them and just sit around and talk about how life used to be when you lived in your own country. Thailand's a beautiful country. Come and enjoy what it has to offer, not just come here and start off your life as you ended your old life in your own country. So that brings me around to number 5 on the reasons why Thailand might not be a great place for you to live or retire, and that would be driving here in Thailand. Driving in Thailand, it's not an easy thing to do. If you're not a competent driver and you're thinking of coming here to live and you're thinking of travelling around in a car or a motorbike, you do need to be a competent driver, and even then you're not going to be guaranteed that things are going to go well for you. Driving here, there are road rules. I just had to do my driving test 3 years ago for a motorbike license, and yeah, they've got lots of rules, but the problem is the police don't police them and nobody obeys them, or very few people obey them. So it's a very dangerous place if you're thinking about driving here. There's 20,000 people killed every year on the roads, but there's more than that, because when they report the deaths on the road, they only report the ones that have died at the scene of the accident, not the ones who go to hospital afterwards and die there. So there's probably closer to 25,000, 30,000 people die every year on the roads. So if you're thinking of coming here and you're thinking about driving around and doing the thing, yes, do it. I do it all the time, but you do have to keep in mind that it is very dangerous. Cars go past you speeding at 120 kilometers an hour. You never see police with radar, or very rarely. I've probably seen it once or twice in 5.5 years I've been living here. The police have checkpoints where they stop you, and that's about it. And I don't know why they have them actually. They just wave you through, but they seem to be everywhere in Thailand. You're driving and there's like a checkpoint and you have to stop, and they look in your window and look at you, and then they wave you on, or they pull you over to the side of the road if they think that you've done something wrong, or they think that they can maybe get a little bit of money from you. So driving here, yes, comes with a lot of problems, and if you're thinking you're going to come here and just do what you do in your own country, think again. So reason number 6 would be the climate here in Thailand. Now I know you probably think, wow, that's why I'm coming there for. I love the climate. But when you come on holiday to a place like Thailand, you're only coming here for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks a year, and you come here for that weather. Probably the country you're leaving behind has got a bad winter, and you get trying to escape from that. So it's great, yeah. Everyone loves to come and relax in the sun, but it is different when you live here, because it's 52 weeks of the year, 365 days of the year, and it can sometimes be too much for you if you're not a warm weather person. Personally, I am. I've lived in warm countries all my life since I escaped England in 1971 and went searching for the sun. So I love the sun, but I also love the seasons. I love the wet season here as well. But if you come here, you do have to expect that you're going to be hot all year round, not just for the few weeks that you spend here when you come here on holidays. It's something you're going to have to deal with on a regular basis. And that can also be hard when you're staying in your house or your condo, you know, you rent a place, because it gets very hot inside, so you're going to have to use the air conditioning and the fans a lot, whereas maybe the older countries you come from, you had the fire on or the heater on. Here it's going to be the opposite. You're going to have to try and cool down. So yeah, keep that in mind if you're going to come here. I did explain earlier on about some people who I met in Malaysia. That was one of the reasons they wanted to go back. They missed the seasons back in their own country. They just got sick of waking up every morning to hot weather. So number 7 on my list of reasons that you might not find Thailand to your liking would be healthcare. Now when I say that, I don't mean the healthcare is bad here. In fact, it's fantastic here. I would put it down to one of the best places in Southeast Asia if you're going to need medical procedures. I think it was very high on the list of medical tourism prior to COVID, and lots of people came here for getting procedures done because it was cheaper than getting them done in the Western countries. But things have changed since COVID. Hospitals now are more expensive than they were then, prior to COVID, and even public hospitals. I went in a hospital when I first came here. I had an accident and I was in hospital for 4 days and I wasn't charged anything, but I believe now they're charging for everything. Probably the public hospitals not as much as the private hospitals. Private hospitals are fantastic here. There's many of them in most towns, most big towns. There's 2 or 3 private hospitals, but you will find they're expensive. And if you're going to come from a country where your medical is free, like the UK and Australia, then you're going to have to pay for it here. If you're suffering from ailments that are ongoing, then it could cost you money here if you need to go into hospital. Having said that, if you go to a pharmacy, pharmaceuticals are a lot cheaper here than what you would pay for in your own country. And also what you also have to consider is that doctors, like in places like I've lived before, where I had my own doctor in Australia, I had my own doctor in the UK, so you don't get that here. You can go to a surgery, you can go to a clinic, or you can go to a hospital, but you don't have your own doctor here, where he knows you and he knows your problems and you deal with him on a regular basis. You might find that you're seeing different doctors each time you go to the hospital. So keep that in mind also. A lot of things to keep in mind, but if you are coming here, it's going to be completely different how you go about your medical procedures. Also, there could be in the future where you will be required to have mandatory health insurance. That's been talked about for quite a few years here in Thailand. Whether they're going to do it, I don't know. I hope not. But if they do, and you're at a certain age, like me, I'm 71, it's very, very expensive. I'm going to have to think of my options if they ever bring that in, whether I'm going to be able to afford to live here if they make me take out health insurance and have to pay on a monthly basis. Because it goes up every year, so it's not as if I think, okay, I can afford it. Next year it'll be more when I get to 72, and then when I'm 73, and so on. So it could be a bad thing for me that I can't afford it, and then I'm going to have to look for another country. So that brings me to reason number 8 of why it could be a problem living here, and that would be the uncertainty of getting a visa. In my case, a retirement visa. I'll explain a little bit about that. When I moved to Australia many, many years ago, I was granted permanent residency visa, and I've had that ever since. So that means that I'm never had to do anything. Once I got that, that's it. I can live there as long as I go by their rules. They didn't bother me. They never said you've got to come and apply every year or you have to check in every once in a while. That was it. I was just forgotten about, and I lived there for 40 odd years without any problems. But here, every 12 months I've got to go and renew my visa. And in between that, every 90 days I've got to go and tell them where I'm living. So it's not an easy task to live here. And it makes me feel as if I'm not 100% wanted here. Where in Australia, once I got my visa there, that was it. I could buy a house, do whatever I wanted, live just like all the Australians who were born there. There was nothing different. I could do everything the same as them. Where here, there's lots of things I can't do. I can't buy land, for instance, in my name. I can't buy a house in my name. I can buy a condo in my name. If 51% of people in the block of condos are Thai owners, then I can buy because I'm the minority. But you find that your rights here are not as strong as in some countries where you retire. And that, to me, is a little bit of a worry. So if you're the type of person who is looking for certainty in life, then Thailand might not be the best place for you to live when it comes to visas. You're here at the courtesy of the Thai government. Once you do get your visa, your 12-month retirement visa or whatever visa you're planning on coming in, that means that yes, you're good for 1 year. It doesn't mean to say you're good for the rest of your life. A new government can come in and change the rules. The old government can just decide that they're changing the rules. So there's no real certainty of being here. And if you're a person who's looking for certainty in life, then Thailand might not be the best place for you to come and live. I believe Malaysia has a 10-year retirement visa, but on the other hand, you could go and retire in a country like Vietnam and there's no retirement visa. So what Thailand is offering is still good, but it's just there's no certainty to it, and that could pose some problems to some people. To sum it up, Thailand for me ticks all the boxes personally, but what I'm looking for in retirement and what you guys might be looking for in retirement could be two different things. But for me, I love living here. The downside for me is the uncertainty of living here. I never feel, because of the way the visa system is run only on a 12-month basis, then I feel as if I'm on borrowed time sometimes. I feel as if I'm not 100% accepted here as a retiree as in some countries. So I hope this helps you. Please come and look at the country. If you think you're coming here, come and spend some time here, spend some quality time, look around, check everything out and see if it's the right country for you before you make the big decision.